In the wake of the pandemic and the war between Russia and Ukraine, the world's economy has suffered from a major setback, with experts even believing those factors may bring forth a global economic recession. With that in mind, many luxury watch consumers are trying to predict how the market would change should the event come. Also, investors are looking into diversifying their portfolios as leveraged against inflation. However, let's look at the bigger picture. Are luxury watches really as recession-proof as they claim to be? Would the big brands really be unaffected? Let's find out in today's video. Amongst luxury goods, the market for luxury timepieces is the most speculated, hands down. However, regardless of the fact that the watch industry has seen astronomical growth and a lot of positives to write home about over the past decades, it has been plagued with some shortcomings regarding sales and exports, thanks to the economic crisis. Guys, when a recession in the economy happens, especially if it's on the global stage, the demand for expensive, luxurious items tends to reduce. And let's be honest, it's simply due to priorities. A lot of people cut costs in their worldly desires and save it up for other pressing issues. Amazingly though, the prices of those luxury items get more expensive. Companies need to recuperate the amounts they use to buy the luxurious materials they craft their watch. Here's a fun fact. According to the Federation of the Swiss watch industry, in the year after the dreaded 2008 economic crisis, there was a recorded fall of over 22% in Swiss watch exports compared to the year before the crisis. However, what if we told you that the luxury watches tend to do well against recessions in the long run? Would you believe it? Well, it's hard to believe it at face value. Let's look at the bigger picture, shall we? For starters, the common logic a lot of people have about how the economic growth and recession affect the industry for luxury watches is false. You see, whenever people think of it, the majority tend to believe the industry for luxury watches is desperately dependent on the traditional middle-class people who aspire to have a significant status boost by splashing a lot of cash on luxury items, say to make themselves look good. But here's why it's not really true. If people that fall under the traditional middle class own the market but rapidly have less spending power for some unforeseen reason, the sales of luxury timepieces would immediately plummet. Brands that target that particular segment of consumers have been and will always be the ones to suffer the most when the economy gets shaky. And as we have seen in the past couple of years, such things can happen out of the blue. Let's be real, who would have predicted the rise of COVID-19? Even if it was predictable though, who would have known it would have had the world at a standstill? Then again, economic recessions aren't the only reasons why such brands have been hit the hardest. Even before the pandemic burst onto the scene, factors like a change of platform for shopping, of course, we mean the physical versus online retail options, competition from interesting smartwatches, and a lackluster growth in the middle-class consumer population are all dicey metrics. If you have been closely monitoring the luxury watch space over the past few years, you'd easily notice some spellbinding activities in the market for pre-owned watches, and even the rapid popularity and growth of some particular models of timepieces, or hey, even the entire brand itself. Of course, all of the aforementioned activities come to light when the market conditions should have brought forth a major downturn of the entire industry, especially if you think the traditional middle class are the king of the market. So then, if that category isn't the true market maker, who then? Well, let's call them the entry-level rich folks. This particular category of watch owners comprises people who seek to be high on the socio-economic ladder. While most of the people in this category earn well enough to occasionally buy a desired timepiece, they aren't rich enough to truly use around $100,000 annually for it. While it may be hard to believe, this particular audience is the true force to be reckoned with. And as a matter of fact, a large percentage of sales today go to that group of consumers. Are you beginning to wonder why though? Let's find out together. Guys, for starters, it all boils down to psychology. While traditional middle-class consumers are realistic in their expenses, and where they are from a socio-economic standpoint, these entry-level rich consumers are way different. They realize they aren't where they want to be in life, and while working their way there, they want to make a few extra efforts to look the part. No one really wants to wait a couple of years to ball out. They want that snazzy-looking Rolex or Audemars Piguet watch right now. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the true cornerstone of luxury shopping. A couple of years ago, the key sentiment luxury consumers conversed about was, "I'm glad I'm finally rich." But in today's world, the conversation is, "Look at me, everyone. Look who's among the rich." While both statements sound the same, as in hindsight they both signal cash must have recently crossed the consumer, they actually have different meanings. While the former entails the consumer splurging cash to celebrate the journey, the latter hints at a feeling of superiority to others. And here's the neat part: like a domino effect, everyone's going to buy one just to keep up, making the cycle go round and round. Looking back at what happened during the 2008 economic recession, a lot of people wonder why big brands like Rolex wouldn't be affected in the long run despite the consumer population. To settle this dispute, let's look at what happened in the real estate field. You see, at that time, the real estate market had a couple of challenges, but while the average man would think it was a crisis, in truth, that is a mere misconception. The real issue was a matter of accessibility. In 2008, the regulations at play for lending were quite different and even larger in favour of pushing home ownership onto people, a stark contrast from what we have now. As of then, homes were approved for people without even caring to ask about or even see a verification of the prospective owner's income. Because of those regulations, people who shouldn't have been rich enough to own a home could bypass the gatekeepers and acquire a house owing to the comparatively low teaser rate for the first couple of years on the loan before their houses skyrocketed in value. At the time, house flipping was rampant. Not only were people who weren't really financially comfortable enough to afford homes emptying their piggy banks to buy houses, but they also worked hard to flip them to make quick profits. However, such strategies can only work in the short run. It's more like a bubble that depends on the upward market trend. If it crashes, everything bursts. For watches, a decrease in supply creates an even higher demand. When particular Rolex models are scarce, they tend to be cherished and demanded more. It's a game of, I have this and you don't. Face it, what's a really better way to show off? During the lockdown periods, there was a crippling supply of Rolex watches all over the world. But impressively, the demand drastically surged to heights the brand had never seen before, thanks to the crypto kids who found new wealth and sought a way to show off. Another reason why people would still buy watches during the recession is simple. It's convenient. The entire process of buying and selling a watch can happen in merely an hour, maybe even less, and the value is recognized in every part of the globe. All you need is a check, a wire transfer, or cash. Everything is so snappy. For other markets like houses, it takes a lot of time. Sometimes the process can even go over a month. And don't even get started about the numerous exchanging of documents. Also, to buy a house, one would need around $150,000 to $200,000, and sometimes even more depending on the area. But for watches, a mere $2,000 could be enough for you. Cars are probably even worse in comparison. For some car models, you can spend crazy amounts of money only to sell it off a while later for crippling losses. Totally bad for the prospect of a worthy investment. To make things even better, the watch you get for $2,000 can appreciate in value, which would give you cool profits if you choose to cash in. Still not convinced? As we already know, gold has been one of the most stable and valuable investments by every metric. Now, what materials are a lot of luxury watch models made of? That's right, gold, and so many other expensive materials. The crazy part about it is that gold watches can also still be used for their functionality. It's more than just an investment. You can wear your timepiece as long as you want, while still being confident that it would not only retain its value over time, it could even appreciate. What's better than that?